Hey, what's up, Liron here. Today's gonna be a quick video in which I show you how I work on my brush marks and how to improve them. This is a very simple, straightforward exercise. I've shown it a couple of times before, but I think it's always good to have a refresher, and I'll show you how I personally do it. So let's get to it. So I thought it will be cool to show you how I practice my brush control. Every once in a while I will do this kind of an exercise, and it's a good refresher. I have done several videos on the topic, but why not revisit it and show you how I do it. So I wrote down here line variance, directions, and shapes, because these are the main things that I think are key to focus on. So we'll get started with line variance. What does this mean? And it will depend on your brush, of course, is to figure out the range of variance of lines that your brush can produce. So let me show you. For example, I can touch the paper very lightly and then put more pressure and then put less pressure, and I'll get this beautiful variety in the line width. Okay, that's something you want to practice doing multiple times and really control where the line goes thicker. So if you can do this kind of a fun thing, you see how I'm varying the placement of the line width. I keep moving it more and more to the right. Here, let's go a little thinner, and then go a little thicker, you see? And that's a really cool exercise. You can do a variance of it by using a smaller brush, for example, and really pay close attention to where you place your line. So let me show you. Go thin, go thick, go thin again, and thick. And then you can do the same, very close, and do the same kind of thing, only move it a bit and keep the distances even. Okay, so all of these small things you can do to really improve your control of the medium, and you can create beautiful patterns. So I think that's the main part of line variance, and it will again depend on the brush. One more thing you can try doing is twisting. I know some people like the effect that is created by that, so that's an example for line variance. Now another thing you can do is work with the pressure. So if you go like this, what kind of lines can you produce by strong pressure? You get the more dry brushy technique, and that can look really nice. One more thing is the direction and angle to paper. So if you keep the brush very close to the paper, you will get also this broken line in a way. But then if you work at this weird of an angle, you can again get either a dry brush technique, or you can work with not even lines but just these kinds of different movements in which you press the brush against the paper. And if you learn how to create all of these different usages for the brush, it can really help increase your range when you're working on any given painting, not just, you know, not just doing these dry practice sessions. Okay, next up I want to show you directions. Okay, that's line variance, and you can really do a lot of work in that regard. You can play around with the line width and all sorts of elements. That's the gist of it though. Directions. Now I want you to practice the direction in which you're painting. So let me just inject some cleaner green, yellowy green paint. I used it on the last live session. Now I want you to practice painting in all directions. So one direction will be like this, and try and maintain the control over the line width if you can. Try going very thin and keep going and creating these parallel lines, okay, and working on your ability to control the brush that way. When I got started, my brush control was terrible, and it's not that it's perfect today, but it's much better. I remember when I was a teen, I tried doing some inking with brush, and it was super difficult. I never managed to get it. Now I breeze through it. It's so much easier. So now that we got this, these lines, try varying the direction. So now I would say go 45 degrees like that, counterclockwise. Okay. These are the main angles you want to work on will be found in that kind of a range. So you go 45 degrees, you see, and practice this. Now try doing it like that, so perfectly vertical. This is pretty much the hardest type of line to draw. It's when you do these masts over boats. This is the one that challenges me the most, and a lot of people recommend to go like this, rotate the paper and just do the masks like that and then rotate it back, because most people have a much natural movement that way rather than this awkward thing. And try doing this both from your wrist, kind of like that. You see how I'm twisting my wrist, but also from your shoulder. So try going with the entire arm and shoulder to get this line variation, to get this direction, sorry, not line variation. So try both, see what's comfortable. Now remember, we started this way, then we went this way, then we went the other way around. So you could practice doing this from bottom to top as well. Okay, that's probably really important too, because you may find yourself needing to do this for more effective usage. And there can be many examples. You want a line that kind of fades upward, so you want to do this kind of a flick up rather than start strong and then go thin. Okay, this is really important. So we did this, we did this, we did this, we did that. Now what we can work on is a different direction. And remember, within those directions, you can work the opposite way. Okay, and this is what I want you to do. Fill in a page with a bunch of these lines. Honestly, it would be best to fill the entire page with these lines, and I do it occasionally. It's just very, very useful to improving your technique. It will translate to better paintings. Even if it's not that obvious and you think to yourself, what am I doing here? I'm not really working on composition. You're working on application. You're working on applying the paint, and that's valuable practice, okay? This is the worst direction, I think, for many people. Going from, if you're right-handed, top left to bottom right, I find that to be one of the hardest directions, probably. It'll probably be this if you're left-handed. So practice both, see if you can get it. A good practice could be doing this on your weak hand, and you'll see how much work I actually need just to get a line to look good. But in any case, that's directions. Now, one last thing you can try in terms of directions, I did want to show you, is circular. So forget about lines. Try doing this kind of a shape. It's a very challenging one with the brush. Generally speaking, if I'm inking something, I won't go full circle. I'll go in stages. So I'll go like this, and I'll probably rotate the paper. Let me show you, and then do the other half. And I just find that to be much easier. But it can't hurt to practice doing full on circles like that. Okay, it will really improve your technique, and when you're doing these, you will need to do them from the shoulder. So use the entire shoulder and develop that fine control. These are exercises I also do with pencil. All of these two, not the variance in width, but these two, I always do them with pencil before I get started on my anatomy sessions and so on. Now, the last exercise I want to show you is shapes. So let's just put in two random shapes. And this is exactly how I would practice it, okay? I'm not changing a thing because it's a video or something like that. And you just get a bit of paint for already in the browns and muds, and you try and fill in the shape effectively. Now, what does this mean effectively? You see, with fewer brush marks, try following the contours very easily. Don't go like this. Don't go like a coloring book, okay? Filling it up. Actually work with the shape itself. If you can get it in fewer brush marks, for example, this section here, I'll just go like that and use the shape of the brush to my advantage. You see, it's something that's a little hard to sometimes explain, but you will get it with practice. At some point, you'll just realize that there's a much more effective way of filling in the shape, and you will start applying it, okay? Now, one more note I want to give you here is do try to work both from the outline inwards and also from inside and out. Inside out is a bit of what some people may say a more efficient way of doing this because you're building the shape and you're preserving the flow. Depending on the shape, some shapes will just be more effective to start from the middle outwards. That way you make sure you don't get any cauliflowers or backgrounds. That is true, I find, in some cases. It's also a good exercise in creating the shape directly rather than really filling it up like a coloring book. Again, let me draw a big shape here. Don't go about these shapes. If it's a huge shape, go top to bottom, work with the bead. But if it's not too big of a shape, really do try and avoid filling it in like that, like some people do. Because what will happen is eventually I'll run out of paint, I'll go back, I'll dip, and I'll start getting cauliflowers. Try avoiding that work method. Instead, go like this. and try to just be as efficient as you can. Work with the brush. I could do this with the small brush too. It's not cheating. Just try being as efficient as you can. You see, with the direction. So yeah, I think these are key to practice no matter what your subject is, no matter what type of, if you work impressionistic, realistic, abstract, no matter what you do, this is a basic brush control skill, and I highly recommend doing it. Work on line variance, try out different things. Different brushes will lead to different results. If I do the same with this small sword brush that starts very short and then goes longer, I will get very different results depending on the direction in which I use it. Try working on that, work on the directions, do circular lines as well, and then finally practice filling in shapes very efficiently and effectively. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let's wrap it up. So this is it for this one. Again, really quick exercise, very fun. You just do it multiple times, fill in a big piece of paper with it. You can use cheaper paper if you don't want to waste your good paper on that. You can use a sketchbook, you can use whatever you want. Just work on those skills of controlling the brush, controlling the marks it produces. It will pay huge dividends in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to learn how to paint like me, as always, check out in the description box below, link to my frustration-free watercolor course. I think you'll enjoy this one, especially if you enjoy these kinds of exercises. And I will see you again in the next vid real soon.